closest I came being seduced in a public bathroom.
I am definitely getting the most nervous watching this one out of all of them.
Because you were voted as the most gullible.
I remember a friend coming up to me and saying, "This is the best premise you've done so far."
I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother, I fucked your...
And this bit really taught me something very important, and that was... Today, I'm watching and reacting to jokes I wrote and performed within the first few months of me doing stand-up comedy. I'll talk about what was good, what was bad, and why I'm not doing the joke anymore. We're taking a trip all the way back to the beginning of 2017.
You guys see these hidden camera commercials where they trick someone into trying a product? They had their advertising.
This was my favorite bit when I first started. I told it the first time I tried comedy, and I told it almost every time I went on stage for at least the first month. I was so into this bit that I remember thinking to myself, if I could just write like 3 more of these bits, I'd be set. I've written 0 more of these bits.
My favorite is where they get a group of about 100 people. They bring them into an Italian restaurant. They tell them they're serving them gourmet Italian food. Everyone sits down, starts eating. Halfway through, someone gets up and says, "Guys, I have an announcement to make. You guys aren't eating gourmet Italian food." Everyone stops. You guys are eating Pizza Hut's new chicken pasta dish. Everyone gets up and starts cheering like this is the greatest moment of their life. First off, where do you find 100 people who are excited about this turn of events? Second of all, you had to lie to get people to eat your pasta. How does that make me want to go out and buy your pasta? It's so good, no one wants to eat it unless you lie to them. And also lying is just immoral.
That's right, people. Lying is immoral. This is the kind of truth that I was saying when I was on stage when I first started comedy.
When I would get caught lying, I get my mouth washed out with soap. I think that's what needs to happen to Pizza Hut here. Someone needs to wash their mouth out with soap. And they need to do it twice. They do it once for the lies they've been telling, and they do it a second time because they've been eating Pizza Hut's chicken pasta dish. And that shit is just disgusting.
What's the moral of this story? That Pizza Hut's chicken pasta dish is disgusting, and these commercials are tricking people into eating it. It's horrible! This was my classic bit. I told this bit probably every single day for like 2 months. I was really into this bit, and I would rewrite it too. I learned a lot about comedy from this bit. There's a million endings. I think this is the ultimate final ending I came up with, where I'm like, you gotta wash their mouth out with soap. Once, because they're liars, and twice, because they've been eating this chicken pasta dish, and that's disgusting. Oh, I felt so good. One of the endings, probably the most cringy ending I did, but I'm also glad I did it because I learned what not to do, is I'm having trouble saying this right now. I remember pointing at everyone individually and being like, I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother. I don't know how this ended that bit, but it did at a time. I'll try and find the tape for that.
I could tell a bunch of lies, like... I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother, I fucked your mother. I could do that, but eventually it would catch up with me, and one of you here in this room would beat my ass, and rightfully so, because you can't go around telling lies about fucking people's mothers.
It worked as a joke. It was consistent. There is a setup and a punchline, and there is surprise. You know, Pizza Hut's commercial, oh, they're fooling people. Isn't that funny? Because the product sucks. The reason why I don't like it is because I don't care about anything I'm saying. At the time, I think I did because it was a joke. I cared about it for the sake of being a joke. I'm also like calling people out. I'm calling Pizza Hut out. And that's really not the style I want to do. I don't want to be one of those comedians that goes, this sucks, everything sucks, commercials suck, TV sucks, movies suck, there's no movies on TV anymore. So ultimately, that's why I stopped doing this joke. Before I get into the next joke, I just want to say I told this joke maybe 3 times, the few of anyest I'm looking at today, and there's a reason for that, so bear with me a little bit. So I was watching Chris Hansen's new show, and what I came away after watching the show is that Chris Hansen is a giant douchebag, and I didn't used to think that before. And I think that was because in his last show, he had a bunch of pedophiles next to him to make him look good. And, you can be the most reprehensible douchebag and say the most condescending, douchey things, but as long as you have a bunch of pedophiles next to you, you're going to be the hero in that situation. On the other hand, in his new show, his co-stars are, people who the cops just reprehended for dealing drugs or... I will say everything I said, I stand behind. I don't disagree with anything. I don't think I had any, poor ideas or logic. The joke makes sense. There's just a big reason why I don't tell this joke. And that is because the topic of pedophilia is really heavy. I learned that really quickly by just talking about it on stage. Also, not something I want to talk about in general, ever. It's just a mistake I made and a lot of new comedians make. And that's to talk about really shocking stuff. The topic of pedophilia isn't something I have any new insight on. I do think Chris Hansen is a douchebag, and therefore I agree with the thesis of this joke. But just pedophilia is really heavy, and I don't talk about that on stage anymore. One thing that happened after I told this joke is a very nice comedian came up to me, and I would later find out he's known for being very nice, but also not the brightest person. And he, wrote down some notes on a paper and gave it to me. And his big notes was instead of saying pedophilia, why don't you say abused children? Which was not the right note to give. This bit was my staple closing bit. At the time, I was like, this is the bit that gets the biggest laughs. I didn't do the bit long enough to actually get booked on a show to close out with this. But at the time, I was really proud of this, so let's give it a listen.
I want to tell a story of the closest I came being seduced in a public bathroom by a man.
Ooh, are you intrigued? Because that was my goal, to intrigue you. Now you have to listen to the rest of the joke. And,
I want to say that it didn't want to have anything to do with it, but, I was young and curious. So what happened was, me and my friend were both in the bathroom washing up at the sink. I think I was complaining about what a pain in the ass it is to have long hair. I had long hair at the time. He had long hair at the time. Just a couple of bros swapping hair tips. No big deal.
I think this is the first time I riffed that line, and I felt so good about that. I was like, yeah, I'm a real comedian now, because I can just riff stuff on stage. It works. I get to keep it in the joke. And you know what? I was right. I am proud of riffs like that stay in jokes. I was really upset about that line. I felt really bad about that line. I was like, I need to say what the fuck to get a laugh here. At the time, and even now, I did have the awareness to know that what the fuck isn't a good punchline. It's very lazy.
At that time, my friend was trying to pull me out. He was like, let's go. But I didn't go. And I'm glad I didn't go. Because as it turns out, he was not trying to seduce me to hook up with me. He was trying to seduce me to join his doomsday cult.
What? Plot twist? Let's hear more.
And the reason I know that is because before he left, he gave me a pamphlet that said, prepare for the rapture, and then a date that has long since passed. I thought he wanted me for my hot body. Turns out he wanted me for my beautiful soul. Okay, that's my...
That would usually get a laugh, but there was a few times, especially towards the end, that it would get a aww. That was not the reaction I wanted. I got kind of mad with that. I'm like, what, you feel sorry for me? Don't awe me, laugh. And this bit really taught me something very important, and that was to talk about yourself on stage. This is a story about myself, and sure, it's cartoony and exaggerated, and I'm withholding all this information to make it big and jokey. Now my style, I think, is more natural and more down to earth and more vulnerable and just talking about things that happened to me. But ultimately, it was talking about myself on stage, about me being in a compromised position, and for that, I think it was a really big turning point for me, and I am proud of that aspect of it. And honestly, it is like an interesting, weird story with a bunch of moving parts, and I could see myself rewriting the story and turning it into another joke in the future. This is my final bit, and there's a reason why it's my final bit, because I think it had the most influence on turning me into the comedian I am today. This video is from my first big performance in front of real people. Before this, it was really only ever open mics, so this was like my first debut onto a stage as part of a comedy competition in front of actual audience members who aren't open mic comedians, which can be a big make or break moment. It was like, is the stuff you're doing just funny to a bunch of edgy comedians in a dark bar late at night? Or will real people like it? Let's look at the video and see.
I was a good kid in high school. I didn't get into any trouble. Except one time, I got called into the office, which usually means you're in trouble. So I went into the office and I said, "Am I in trouble?" They said, "No."
I am definitely getting the most nervous watching this one out of all of them. And it's not because it's the worst, it's probably the best of all the bits I've seen. It's because I'm being the most vulnerable here. And it's also in front of a lot of people. The stakes are the highest. So I'm like reliving this moment and remembering how nervous I was.
I said, "So why did you call me into the office?" I said, "We called you into the office to do a photo shoot." I said, "A photo shoot?" They said, "Yes." I said, "Why?" They said, "Because you were voted by the entire freshman class as the most gullible." And I was like, "I don't remember this. When did this vote go on?" "Who decided it?" And they're like, "We did." And I said, "Who's we?" And they said, "The yearbook committee." And I said, "Makes sense to me. I believe you completely. I have no follow-up questions."
I can hear friends of mine in the audience laughing at this. This brings back lots of memories. I think I was 5 months into doing comedy at the time. This is a really good audience. They were laughing at a lot of stuff, and I at the time had developed enough stage presence to just pause as long as I need to and let them laugh. And I'm very proud of that. Good job, James of 2017. I'm drinking water. That was a big habit I had early on in comedy where I just chug water in between jokes because I think my mouth got so dry because I was so nervous. A good improvement from the other clips is that my eyes are open. My eyes are open, which is very important when you're doing comedy. I also wasn't like this anymore, which is good. Very good. I was a very nervous and terrified person, especially when I was on stage. So this bit kind of played to those strengths. And a lot of the early bits I wrote for the voice of a very nervous and terrified person because that's who I was and that was real. And that came off very well on stage. And this is an example of me being a nervous, terrified person, telling a story of where I was very nervous and terrified. Some reasons why I stopped doing this bit, the style of me holding back a lot of information for dramatic effect is still very much used here. I am, what's the right word? Dramatic irony, I think I'm using. I'm withholding information from the audience to get dramatic effect, which I don't do as much anymore. Also, I am not quite as scared and terrified on stage as I was when I told this bit. And I do think it's a very important, interesting story that really talks about who I am on stage. I did get to use this on shows, and I always open shows with this because I thought this bit did introduce me well. well. But I have changed as a person a little bit. I'm not quite as nervous, so I do need to update a little bit for my newer persona on stage, where I'm still kind of like this, but I'm more like looking at stuff and being confused about why it's so aggressive. I would say this joke is a bit of a prisoner to its structure. It's a very like measured structure, like da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. Can you do your callback? Like, it's very set, the structure. You can't change much. And that's not how I do comedy anymore. So in order to do this story again, which I do see myself doing, I need to break this story out of its structure so it can be free. When I first said this bit on stage with the honesty and vulnerability about myself, I remember a friend coming up to me and saying, "This is the best premise you've done so far." And me at the time thinking, nah, that Pizza Hut bit is way better. But I was wrong, and he was right. This is the type of comedy I wanted to be doing, be myself, be vulnerable on stage. And the Pizza Hut comedy was not the type of comedian I wanted to be. And for that, I'm grateful, and I feel like this has been a very influential bit. And that's why I thought it was important to share this bit with you today. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I try to answer every question, and right now I'm not popular enough not to, frankly, so I will answer every question. I will talk to everyone. I want to see your thoughts. Also, check out any other videos I have on this channel. I got a bunch of videos. I'll say the last 5 have been like really good, and I'm really proud of them, so definitely check out the last 5. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.